Hi Mel, it's lovely to talk to you this afternoon and to welcome you on to RIMU Reflections. So thank you ever so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It feels
Excellent.
quite autumnal, so I'm not sure whether I'm looking forward to that or not, to be honest.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Definitely the rain has returned, that's for sure. So, well, thank you ever so much for joining us today. It's going to be great to find out a little bit more about what you do. So, you obviously work in social media marketing. How long have you worked in marketing in general?
So my background is in business development and marketing. So
Okay.
in total, probably of about 18 years, but
Oh,
on the
wow.
social media marketing side since 2017, so 6 years.
Excellent. Doing some maths there. Um,
I think it's just getting lost with the pandemic. I'm still like, when was that?
yeah, you definitely lose a few years, that's for sure. So what made you kind of focus on the social media space? Is it something that you particularly enjoyed when you were working in a more general marketing role?
Well, to be honest, I guess it's a bit of a mum story that we've all been through. So when my daughter was born, I went back to work in London, and it was I was doing a 4-day week, which wasn't really a 4-day week. And then
No.
a few other things happened, and I ended up getting made redundant. And I was getting approached by quite a lot of businesses to go back into the more kind of sales role. And
Hmm.
obviously working in media sales, there's long days, there's lots of entertainment. And at the time, shorter hours and flexible working wasn't really a thing.
Hmm.
So we didn't and it meant going up to London every single day. So I after much thinking about it, I enrolled in the Digital Mum Strategic Social Media Management course.
Yes. No. I know quite a few people
Yeah,
who've done that. It's a really good program.
which doesn't actually exist anymore. Because I think at the time sort of social media marketing was very different to how it is now. It was potentially still in its infancy for businesses, and it was just a kind of new way of getting out there and getting to market, really. So I started
Hmm.
off very part-time because I had a really young, a baby, and just started working with a lot of local businesses, and businesses that I guess were in the sort of space that I was in at the time. So
Yeah, sure.
mums trying to make it work around their business. And then that kind of grew into more of a, I guess, the more of the strategy side and more of the training, because what I was identifying around that time, that this term that we all hate, personal branding and and storytelling, was becoming much more of a thing.
Yeah.
And particularly women and business owners and those that had left the corporate world were absolutely terrified of putting themselves out there. So it was identifying people like that, and who still are like that, who felt really overwhelmed, didn't know how to navigate the tech side of it, but fundamentally really needed to lay that solid foundation to
Hmm.
know what to say about their business, know where to be,
Sure.
and come up with a strategy and plan.
Yeah. Excellent. No, that's good. And I guess you've kind of focused in that small business sort of space ever since then, haven't you? If my memory serves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So what's the thing that you enjoy most about your role, would you say?
By meeting new people and finding out about the businesses, I think
Hmm.
that I'm a real people person. Like, I get my energy from other people, and I think for me it's, and I always think nosy is like a derogatory word, but actually I think it's a positive trait, as long as it's not being maliciously nosy.
Yeah.
I really enjoy meeting new people and kind of finding out about their businesses and their business challenges, and then
Hmm.
working out ways that, if I can't help them, that I can actually recommend somebody who possibly, who can help them.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it might be a marketeer's trait because I'm much like yourself. I really enjoy that kind of that connection with people and finding out what new businesses do and potentially the challenges that they face and seeing how we can help them. So yeah, that completely resonates with me as well.
It could be, and I think it's it probably is a marketer's trait, but I think it's so important, I think, to have that connection with your clients, because
Definitely.
actually there is, as we both know, marketing isn't, it's not, as much as you read on the internet, it's not an overnight solution. You don't
no,
suddenly fully booked, or you've fully sold out your course or whatever's in your shop or your restaurant. And I think I think it's understanding what makes them tick and how you can help them stand out.
Definitely. And then I guess on the flip side, what do you enjoy least about your role?
Admin.
I would say accounts, so I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, accounts and admin. It's just not my I'm one of those people who, does their expenses once every 3 months, then realizes they've missed a whole heap of things, and then tries to put in good practices of going back and doing it, every couple of days or every time something comes in, and then just failing to stick to it, to be honest.
I'm with you on that one wholeheartedly. That's where outsourcing comes into its own, for sure.
Yeah, I think getting a good accountant is definitely the first thing that you should spend your money on.
Definitely. It was one of my things when I set up RIMU Marketing. I'm exactly the same as you. I said to my husband, I don't really know how this business is going to pan out. The one thing it does have to be able to support is to employ an accountant to do my taxes. I consider myself relatively intelligent, but the stress it would put on me to do that once a year, I was just like, oh no, that's something I know it's not my area of strength. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on that.
No, I agree. And I think you try and do it yourself. There's still a lot of jargon, and also things do change all the time. I mean, things have changed massively in the last few years, and it's just another thing to keep on top of, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just thinking about your way of working, just something you picked up on what you're saying there. How would you describe yourself in 5 words? Have you got, if your husband or one of your clients was describing you, what do you think they would say?
I've written that it's more than 5, but not many more. And these are based on things that people have said. And I think I was pondering this question actually, because I think when you're self-employed or run a small business, I think your values in your business tend to be quite similar to your ones outside, and they're just the way you are. So I've written down supportive, optimistic, hard on myself, which I think I am, realistic. I can't even read the next one. And a bit of a people, generous, and a bit of a people pleaser.
Okay. All right. No, that's good.
Supportive and generous go. I guess the supportive and generous go with the people pleaser, don't they?
They do, but I think that's also a natural trait as someone that works for yourself. You generally want to try and help people as best you can. I know that that's something that is really important to me, and I've realised about the way I work, and actually I see that trait across a lot of my clients too. So I do completely understand what you mean, that often your values and your way of working is reflected in the people that you work with. So I know what you mean with that.
I think that's the interesting thing. I mean, your value proposition is really important, because I think ultimately that's what attracts you to other people. And if your client doesn't share your values, or you don't share theirs, then you're probably going to come a cropper at some point.
Yes, I think you're right, for sure. Tell me one thing that we might not know about you.
Oh. Well, when I worked in Uganda for about 10 months when I graduated, which was many years ago, on a health education program for peer-to-peer support. So there was lots of things that happened, but one of the things that happened was that I had gone into town, and it was quite a rural town, with a friend of mine. Actually, she was the girl I did my placement with, who is Ugandan, and 2 of the to other people we know, and they're all Ugandan, and we got stuck in town. We couldn't get a taxi, so the only place we could get a room to sleep in was a brothel.
Okay.
Which I'm not sure if I very much doubt that probably anybody watching this has ever been into a brothel in a rural town in Africa, but it wasn't. I can still like literally feel how scratchy the sheets were. This is like 19 years ago. So yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, that's making me feel a bit funny, that is. But
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that.
It's just, yeah, I think I had to try really think of something, and that just popped into my head a while ago. I was like, oh, that's actually quite an unusual one.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've never heard that one before, that's for sure.
Disclaimer, that is the only brothel I've ever slept in.
So a lot of the people watching these series will be people maybe starting out along their business journey for themselves. So I like to try and sort of share some kind of tips and things that might help people if they are just starting out on their journey. So I guess, what's the one learning that you would have told your younger self? And is there a tip that you would give to somebody maybe wanting to move into the social media marketing space?
I think for my younger self, it's don't be scared to do what you want to do.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I think that's just applies across, and don't care about how other people think. And I think this is quite maybe a female trait, and also quite sort of generational as well. Women in particular being quite kind of constrained by expectations of us. And there never is a good time. And actually, unless you're doing something you really shouldn't be, you should just follow your heart and do what you think is the right thing for you. Because if it isn't, then you can always change it.
Yeah, it can be hard though, can't it? If you're taking a step away from a paid job, or there's a big implication of you making that change or that transition. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it is quite a female trait, that we kind of have a bit of an imposter syndrome. Oh, am I good enough? Should I be doing this? So, but no, that's good advice. And what tip would you give to somebody wanting to move into social media marketing?
Be prepared for things to change a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
I think, but also be aware that actually the fundamentals, I think, that remain the same. What does your client actually need to be doing? What do their audience need to see? And not getting shiny object syndrome, I think, would be, and just being ready to constantly evolve, I think.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you. And I guess last question, what are the 3 challenges that you see, or maybe 2 or 3 challenges that you see on the horizon? I guess we're starting to talk about 2024. I can't believe I'm starting to think about Christmas. But what are the kind of the challenges on the horizon that you see?
I think some of them we're seeing already. I think obviously AI is a huge challenge. Yeah. I know a lot of people are very concerned about it. I think I used an analogy with somebody yesterday, actually, and I think because my husband's a techie, and he's a developer, and he uses ChatGPT a lot, but he knows what the outcome needs to be and can be very specific about getting it to help him, I think, is the key thing. Yeah. Which is the same, so, and I think as marketers, like we're fully aware that AI could be a challenge to some of the work that we're doing, but I think it's still that education piece about, okay, yes, this is a tool, but in order to make it work effectively for you, you need to do a bit more than, say, write me 5 social media posts about Italian food or coaching, for instance. So I think it's going to be a challenge, I think, not just within our industry, but globally, to understand what that technology actually means. Yeah. How we can use it as a benefit. And I think another challenge, I think, is just increasingly increasingly savvy consumers. You know, I think, I mean, over the, you know, not that we're old, but, you know, within our working lives, we've seen quite a lot of, you know, there's a lot less brand loyalty than there used to be. You know, and there's a
Well,
lot
no,
of
I don't know. I think it depends on what you're buying, doesn't it?
yeah,
Because I think there's unquestionably a need for a focus on environmental aspects, on a focus on charity, a focus on sustainability. So I think for some things, and I had an interesting conversation with a financial advisor quite recently, and he was saying that some of his clients proactively say, okay, well, within my investments, I want to focus only on sustainable businesses. And
yeah,
that's really interesting. So that kind of immediately removes people like Shell and the kind of the petrol industry. But obviously that has an impact potentially on your returns and profitability. So it's almost kind of creeping into places, and I hadn't really thought of it in that way before. So I think things like that, you know, and food and organic food and stuff like that, people are prepared to pay a bit more because they know there's more involved in the process. But like you say, on perhaps other things, there's less brand loyalty, but there's less differentiator between the products, like car insurance, for example. I had my car was up for renewal, no, my house insurance, and it literally, my premium had gone up by over £100 this year for nothing. And it's like, well, I've got to check it out. And I managed to save myself a whole ton of money just by shopping around. And it's like, why would I remain brand loyal to you when you're just essentially squeezing somebody because you're banking on the fact I'm not going to make time to find somebody else? For stuff like that, I absolutely agree.
And but I think just consumers being like you say, much more aware about, concerned about environmental issues, sustainability, what kind of impact is my products having on, and actually, you know, that connecting with that, aligning with their values, but those being things they actually value rather than a box ticking exercise. And I think a lot of brands are, you know, a lot of big companies are still, and smaller ones are still kind of paying lip service to all of this. And I think that's a real challenge, that is, because that change needs to come from within, but it needs to be real. And in order to get people to buy into that, it has to be real, and you have to get your people internally to buy into it. So I think that's a real I think that's a challenge that a lot of businesses are going to face over the next few years. And I think it's definitely already started for some.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much for joining us this afternoon, Mel. It's been brilliant to interview you on RIMU Reflections. If somebody wanted to find out more about what you do, what's the best place for them to turn to?
So I was going to say, you can look me up on LinkedIn, but I have a very common surname. So there's quite a few Melanie Johnsons, but I think it's Melanie Johnson, and then I think it's social media coach, but probably my website, which is www.thesussexsocial.co.uk.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Lovely to talk to you.
And you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.